Have you ever thought of buying a franchise or currently own one or many? If so, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria, the podcast created and hosted by franchise attorney Josh Brown for the sole purpose of helping people find success through franchising.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria, the podcast completely dedicated to educating the franchise community with the goal of really trying to help people make smarter decisions in franchising. Josh Brown here, your host, and today for the tip of the day, we're going to talk about keeping your restaurant staff happy. It's no secret that a large part of franchising involves restaurants. It is the single largest sector in the franchise market. And recently I had on the founder and owner of an incredible place called Bub's Burgers and Ice Cream, Matt Fry. And he really shined a light on really a lot of things. I mean, we talked about how he started out, how he thought of the concept, all the way through to, how he got into franchising the concept. But one thing that we touched base on throughout the interview, which was really kind of fascinating, was we talked a lot about his staff and the people that worked for him. And it was evident that he really cares about his staff. And so I thought to myself, they're really one of the biggest issues with franchise restaurants is turnover. I mean, it's just very, very difficult to keep a staff. And some of that just, some of that has to do just with the nature of the business. I mean, typically when you're hiring waiters, waitresses, servers, people, front of the house people, and so on and so forth, back of the house, kitchen people, you're hiring typically younger people. And so by its very nature, it's going to be more of a challenge to keep them. And it's more of a transient kind of a process. A lot of people go and work in restaurants to get experience, to make a little bit of money, and then they move on in their life. But one thing that I really thought about was there's really 5 ways to keep your restaurant staff happy. And ultimately that will lead to them staying there longer or possibly even coming back once they leave. Whether they're leaving because, they're done with high school, going to college, maybe they come back in the summers, whatever the case may be, if you can do these 5 things, you're going to be in a good position to not only keep your staff happy, which will absolutely go straight to the bottom line because they are the ones interacting with your customer, but you'll also keep them for longer. The first thing that I want to talk about is just you as the owner being there. That's the number one thing. If you want to keep your restaurant staff happy, you have to be at your restaurant. There is absolutely no substitute for the owner being there. There's a great example of that. There's a local restaurant here in town called Daddy Jack's and Kona Jack's. It's really 2 separate restaurants, but they're right next to each other, same owner. And they've been in business for, I don't even know how long, probably 30 years. And one of the hallmarks of their business is the owner's always there. I mean, the owner is there cleaning tables. The owner's there talking with the staff, talking with the customers, and he's got his finger on the pulse of that business. And that is such an important part. And I want to really hammer that home because a lot of people who are considering buying a franchise or buying a franchise restaurant believe that after they get it up and going, they will be able to sort of hand it over to a manager and just kind of pop in at the start of the day and then at the end of the day to count the money and and just not really be there. But I find that the best restaurant owners are there day in and day out. Now, it doesn't mean you can't take a day off here or there. It doesn't mean you can't go on vacation, but you have to be there. I mean, it does so much for morale. I mean, when a young person sees that the owner is in there getting his or her hands dirty, when the owner is in there cleaning the bathrooms, when the owner is in there doing everything to ensure that it's a great experience for the customer, I mean, that's powerful. Number two, you have to care, and you have to truly care. You know, one thing that young people are good at is really seeing through BS. And so you really can't fake the funk with them. I mean, you need to be a genuine person. You need to show that you care for them. And that's one thing that Matt from Bubs really, really talked about, was that's been one of the most satisfying things for him, was to see the development of his younger staff. And part of that is he really cares. And, you know, caring doesn't mean being a pushover. Caring means, you know, a lot of times showing the tough love, being demanding, showing people that, especially young people, that this is a significant responsibility, that you're taking care of people. You're providing an experience to people when they come to your restaurant. They're paying to be there for an hour or two. And part of that is the food, but the larger part of it is just the event, the experience of going out. You know, for some people, it's their birthday, it's their anniversary, it's, you know, the first night that this couple's has gone out since they had their child, and they're having a date night. I mean, these are really important moments in people's lives, and you as the staff really, and the owner really, need to pay attention to that. And when an owner cares, and when an owner takes notice of those things and really takes care of his or her staff, that really goes a long way to keeping people happy, keeping them motivated, keeping them on task, and really drives straight to the bottom line. Number three is you can't be cheap. You know, and I know in the restaurant business, an average, I think waiters and waitresses make $2.14 an hour here in Indiana, and then they make that up in tips to get at least the minimum wage. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that structure. That's obviously the standard in the restaurant business. But as an owner, you need to reward people who are good. You need to reward your staff that goes the extra mile. I mean, you see it all the time in restaurants where you'll walk in and you can notice when one of the staff really cares and really takes pride in what they do. I mean, that's a hell of a good worker, and that's rare. You need to reward those people and not be cheap. So it's one thing to follow the formula, because obviously as a franchise, we're all following formulas and systems and processes, but you have to reward people for good work and not be cheap. That really kind of ties into number 4, which is you have to provide opportunities for advancement. For that person who comes in and may start as a dishwasher in the back, if they do a good job, you need to talk with them about the opportunity of advancement and find out what they want to do. I mean, after all, it could be a high school kid who's, you know, just looking to work there for a couple years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he or she wouldn't want to advance. You know, maybe instead of washing dishes, they want to be out on the floor. Maybe if they're out on the floor and they're doing a good job, they now want to be front of house, where they have that first impression with the customer. I mean, every situation is a little bit different, but the point is that as the owner, you really need to always be thinking about opportunities for advancement for your staff. And number 5 is promoting from within. I can't tell you how important this is, especially in the restaurant business. You know, there's so many jobs that need to be done on a daily basis for a restaurant to operate efficiently and effectively. And there's no better way to promote than to promote from within. I mean, if you are staying attuned as an owner, you should have a file on each and every one of your staff members, including your waiters, waitresses, dishwasher, everybody. And you should be marking down what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, and be working on those and really hone in on what people's strengths are so that you can try to get them in the best positions. I mean, you might realize that your dishwasher has the best personality out of anybody in the place. Well, then why are they in the back washing dishes? They need to be in front of the customers. So I think that paying attention to that and giving people the opportunity to advance and promoting them from within the organization is absolutely huge to keeping people happy. So quick recap, five ways to keep your restaurant staff happy. You need to be there. You need to care. Don't be cheap. Provide opportunities for advancement and promote from within. I am fully confident that if you do these 5 things and just pay attention to these 5 things and look at what you're currently doing right now, I am sure there's certain things that are probably lacking and you're not paying enough attention to. Start paying attention to these 5 things and you will see your staff become increasingly happy, which will keep them there longer, which will go straight to your bottom line. Until the next time, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.